What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tomatito Boxing Show. Heck Cali here. And we've been putting out several episodes today, and I say we because I got Cholo Travieso joining me today, and we've covered several episodes already, from Chris Smith fighting Richard Rioport, that rematch that now has title implications, to Subriel Matias and Liam Perro. Subriel Matias homecoming out in Puerto Rico in front of his crowd with a title, putting it on the line. Has the title, has the pressure of performing in front of his crowd, but no longer has the pressure of that unblemished record where Liam Perro does. Liam Perro shooting to become a champion at 140 and an undefeated fighter. And in that very same division, at 140, you've seen a lot of movement and almost every champion being active. Then we drop down 5 pounds to the event that is being headlined by none other than one of the champions, Gervonta Davis, who will be fighting Frank Martin. And that's the episode that we're going to focus on here today, or the card that we're going to focus on this episode, where there's a lot to talk about. Now, the card is stacked. I think there's 10, 11 fights on there. And we're going to touch on these fights real quick. And then we're, of course, the meat and potatoes is the two main events. I don't know if it's a co-main event or if it's a main event with an undercard where David Benavidez, I think they've been calling it a co-main event, and they've been billing it as such, giving Benavidez his props as a big draw. And so I'll let my partner here jump in. It's been a pleasure. I mean, we've been at it for several hours now, and you could check these episodes in succession, in order as we're uploading them, and they're going to be uploaded as we recorded them. Now, it's a different pace, a different pace and a different rhythm for me, because I'm accustomed to going at this alone. And I got my partner, El Cholo Travieso, whom we spent hours and hours and hours talking about boxing. And this is no exception. Here we go. I think we're entering hour 2 or hour 3, and we continue going. So welcome, and thank you again for joining me. How's it going? How have you spent these last few hours? And have you been taking too many L's from me so far on the debates that we've been having today thus far?
It's been great. Thank you for having me. This is an awesome show. I highly recommend everybody to come in and check out Head Cali. He's an awesome guy. His show's awesome. Tomatito. I'm a big fan. I'm honored to be here today. I listen to Head Cali's podcast all the time, especially when there's fights. This guy's super knowledgeable. He brings a lot to the table. And I do follow boxing. I follow boxing as a religion. And it's my passion. And I've been following boxing for a long time now. And like I said, I'm a big fan of this podcast, Tomatito. And I'm just, like I said, honored just to be here today. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for joining me. And then I wanna touch base. Where does this nickname come from, Cholo Travieso?
El Cholo Travieso was my childhood names, actually.
Like a nickname that they gave you?
The nickname, because I was a little scrap kid. You know, I grew up in Skid Row, obviously, as a lot of Latinos grew up back in the 80s. I grew up in the streets. My dad passed away when I was 3. Not to talk about my past. But my nickname was El Cholo, and then you know, and my teachers used to call me El Travieso because I was a troublemaker. Obviously, had a lot of extensive history growing up, and then changed my life. So now I'm living a great life.
Cool nickname, man. Cholo Travieso, pretty interesting. So a lot of travesuras there, a lot of travesuras. Mischief.
It's not something that I gave myself. It was something that was passed on to me when I was a young man. Just like Rampage Jackson, his nickname was Rampage from a young kid. Why? He was a
rambunctious kid.
Yeah, rambunctious kid. So that's where I get my. That's where I decided to start out with.
That's cool, man. I appreciate you joining me, and I've said it on the past episodes. When we run into each other, we talk about boxing, and we lose track of whatever it is that we were there to do. If we run into each other at a grocery store, if we run into each other just at random, we lose track of whatever it is that we were there for, because we start talking about the events. One of the people that we always, or two of the people that we always talk about a lot, are Canelo and Benavidez.
Yes.
And that's going to happen today, obviously, because there's a co-main event. And we lose track of time, and it's refreshing, because I've been asking to bring you on for a while, and this was the perfect card to do it in the perfect week because it's a stacked Saturday, and the fights are maybe a couple hours from getting underway.
We got some amazing fights coming up. I can't believe we got Matias, we got Tank, we got Benavidez all in one day. It's Christmas in June. I couldn't ask for anything else. This is an awesome day for boxing fans.
Awesome day, and then. And so I promise you guys know that I try to get into big events. So this is something that I haven't mentioned, but I keep putting in, and thanks to you guys, the show continues to grow. The downloads, you guys are spreading the word, and it's slowly but surely growing to where I've gotten invites and the doors open to me to some big events, and but I got turned down. I got turned down on this one today for Davis and Frank Martin, Tank versus Frank. I put in for it. I got turned down. Not the biggest publication yet. But then again, just a few weeks ago, I was there at Navarrete Baranchik out in San Diego, made the trip, and we're going to continue trying. I owe it all to you guys. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I tell you guys all the time, if it wasn't for you guys spreading the word and continuing to help me grow the show and allow me to enter your living rooms or your headphones or your car stereos, whatever it is that you listen to the podcast from, it wouldn't be happening. So it's because of you guys that I continue to get the invites to these shows. I have some upcoming ones that I'm looking at getting the invite to, hopefully by the end of this month, and we'll see. Obviously, you guys will hear me live from there.
Hey, just to let you guys know real quick, Head Cali, he is the real deal. He's out there. He's looking. He's searching. We've attended a couple of fights together, and this guy's super motivated. This guy's out there. He's really hustling to bring the best and the best boxing commentary you can have. He's out there talking to the fighters. This guy is really truly doing it. He's really truly doing it. He's not doing it from behind a screen TV or in the internet. This guy's actually attending fights and talking to fighters and doing the weigh-ins. And he's every time I talk to this guy, he's always telling me that he's putting in for the events. Hopefully he can get invited to the backstages. But this guy's a true deal. And if you've ever listened to his podcast in the past, he's very knowledgeable. I'm a big fan of his. And I said it on the last podcast. I'm a huge fan of his podcast. I listen to his podcast whenever I get whenever he brings out something new, and I'm amazed at the work that he puts out. But at the end of the day, he's a friend of mine. I literally see this guy on a daily basis, and I'm just amazed at the type of work he does. And I do follow all the podcasts, but this guy's very knowledgeable at what he does, and I'm his number one fan, to be honest with you. And I'm not saying it because he's here, but you know what? This guy's gonna grow. He's gonna do great things, and pass the word around. That's the only thing that I can say is pass the word around. You guys will get out of this guy. You're honestly gonna get a lot of tomatodito. But
hey, thank you for that, and thank you for stroking the ego there. You guys know that I'm not big into that, but I really appreciate the kind words. And I said it on the past 2 episodes. I'm not bribing him to say these kind words. We're 4 beers in, true to the name, toma todito, which means take it all in or drink it all up. And we're about 4 beers in right now, and having a blast just recording on a Saturday early portion of the day, which started as the morning, and we're well into the afternoon hours now. At least in our time zone. I really appreciate it, and I love the change in pace where you have somebody else on board with you. So let's jump in with that, because hopefully we get invited into these next 2 fights that I submitted the show into, and you guys will hear me from location there. Bam Rodriguez, Gallo Estrada's one that I'm waiting to hear back on, and then Camarón Cepeda, who's going to be out in Ontario, California. That's an interesting one against a former opponent of Pitbull Cruz. So those are 2 that I'm looking at, that I'm keeping my eye on, and so wish me luck. And if I go, you guys know that you guys go along with me, because I'll be bringing the shows to you from there. Let's jump into this card because it's packed. There's about 10, 11 fights on this. The main ones that I want to focus on, the first one, and then of course we're gonna kill this show with the main ones, right? That's what we're waiting for. That's the ones that we're excited. The top 2. But let's talk about Elijah Garcia, Kyron Davis, because it's a fight that I'm really excited about. A Phoenix area native, This is a middleweight fight for Elijah Garcia, who's undefeated going into this with a 16-0 record. He could do it all. In my opinion, he's a well-versed. He could mix up his attack, and he's got 13 knockouts, so only 3 decision wins to date out of Phoenix, Arizona, and he's been slowly answering the call. The fight with Kyron Davis was supposed to happen on the undercard of Sue Fundora, and then Elijah Garcia, the day of the weigh-ins, ends up getting a stomach virus. The fight is canceled, and now it finally got rescheduled. Kyron Davis, of course, has a lot more experience than Elijah Garcia. He brings an 18-3-1 record. So 3 defeats, his 3 losses came, the last loss came at the hands of David Benavidez. That was in 2021. He ended up losing to Patrick Day back in 18 and Junior Castillo back in 16. He has a draw with Anthony Durrell. Just think about the names that I just mentioned right now, because the one thing that you should know between the difference of Kyron Davis and Elijah Garcia is experience. He's been in there with some really good names that have a lot of talent and are really versed boxers, very talented boxers that have either been at the top of the division or have been in the top 10, top 20 ranks like a Patrick Day. But you got Anthony Durrell, former champ, David Benavidez, current champ, and now challenging up at 175 in this very same card. So how do you see this fight? Have you had a chance to look into this fight with Elijah?
I have. I like Kyron Davis. He has a lot of experience. He's fought the top of the top. Elijah Garcia, his resume isn't too impressive. You got some 14s and 1s, 15s and 1s, 16s and 1s. So his opposition hasn't been per se at the top of the game, but Davis has actually been up there, and he's traded leather with the best of the best right now. David Benavidez is a monster, and we'll jump into that later. But he lost against David Benavidez, but he actually went in the ring with David Benavidez. So this guy has the experience. I'll give it to Davis.
The interesting thing with Davis is that obviously when he fought Benavidez, it was at 168. This is a 160 fight. Yeah. So he's coming down in weight to fight a guy that's making his way up in the division. You got 3 opponents that come to attention. Jose Resendiz was definitely the best opposition and the most recent for Elijah Garcia. Kevin Zambrano was good, and Amilcar Vidal Jr. was a tough opponent at that time. Just those 3 opponents alone, a lot of boxing pedigree between those 3 with decent records who are making their own way within their respective careers. Very good wins for Elijah Garcia to get him into this fight. This fight for Garcia is knocking on the door of the gatekeepers. And that's what this fight resembles, in my opinion. Where Kyron Davis has been in there with good names, he's got all the talent and he's young. Be able to challenge again another top dog in the division. But now that he's campaigning at middleweight, we have a lot of middleweights where the division is open right now. The old guard of the division is who? Erislandy Lara with the WBA title. You got Charlo, who's out of the question now, and Carlos Adames, who's also on this card. He got elevated to the WBC champ now, and Janibek has the other 2 titles. You got Ammo Williams, who just got beat for the first time. Ammo Williams, Elijah Garcia was really interesting to me. Both of them 16-0. Ammo Williams just got beat out in Saudi Arabia about a week or 2 weeks ago in that 5v5. And so people are lining up right now at 160. Bubu Andrade is somebody who campaigned and lost to Benavidez. In my opinion, he shouldn't stay at 168. He should come back to 160, and these guys will be waiting for him. Yeah. So that's the interest behind this fight, and the fact that Carlos Adames is fighting in the same card. Whoever wins this fight could be the very next opponent, because they're both highly ranked by the WBC, to challenge Adames for his title, should he be victorious in his fight against Tero Geisha later in the evening.
Yeah, Adames is ranked 8th. Garcia's ranked 10th. So they're right below each other. And if Garcia can pull this one off, I would love to see that fight against Adames.
That would be good.
Adames does tonight también.
Terrell Geisha, who's challenging Carlos Adames later on in the evening. Geisha coming into the win with a 24-3-1 record. Adames 23-1. And the interest about Adames is that we just recently talked about, we brought up his name a couple episodes ago when we saw Sandor Sayas defeat Patrick Teixeira. That one defeat that Carlos Adames has is to none other than Patrick Teixeira. Very good work for Sandor Sayas, who is making his way and paving his own way for Puerto Rico boxing as well, and just defeated a veteran in Patrick Teixeira. Teixeira holds a victory, the only defeat to Carlos Adames' record to date. That's the interest here, how they're all fighting each other here.
You know what? That's what I love about this division. Is they're all fighting each other. They're not running. They're not hiding. They're not requesting bigger paydays. They're hungry. These guys are hungry, and they're willing to put it all in the ring. So we expect to see great things from these guys.
Yep.
Especially they're so closely ranked. I mean, for crying out loud, it doesn't get any better than what we have right now.
And the interest is Elijah Garcia, Kyron Davis in a 10-round fight. Obviously, the championship between Adames and Geisha is going to be a 12-rounder. And so the interest is to see how these guys look. Whether Geisha beats Adames, what a shot for Terrell Geisha to be able to win from an Olympic star for the U.S., somebody who represented the U.S. Out in the Olympics in his yesteryear, to a great amateur pedigree record, and then coming into the pros. And he still sits with a decent pro record, 24-3-1. So if he's able to pull it off, what an outstanding career that Terrell Geisha's overall is turning out to be, from the amateurs to the pros. For Adames, you got the Panamanian star who's had every type of obstacle get in his way in the past, from immigration issues, not being able to get into the country, fights getting canceled, to finally realigning his camp, changing camps, now to finally being elevated to full champion now that Jermall Charlo has exited, who was not warranting that fight to Carlos Adames in a unification when Adames used to be the interim. So very interesting fight where both of these fighters find themselves in the similar stage in their careers, as does Elijah Garcia and Kyron Davis. Even though their records are completely different, you got an Elijah Garcia who's asking for better level opposition, and a Kyron Davis who's willing to answer that call and stop the newcomers so he could pave his way. So all these four fighters are intermingled one way or another with the title there held by Adames at the moment, right?
Yes.
So very interesting two
and
fights.
if you look at Adames only lost, it's against
Patrick Teixeira.
Patrick Teixeira. He was a monster back in the day.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's not fighting anymore, but back in the day, he was knocking out everybody.
He fought Sandor Sayas on Saturday, but it's not the same Patrick Teixeira that we
No, it's
saw
not the
back
same
then.
one. No, it's not the same. Back in the day, he was the guy to go to. He was the man at the top of the division back in the day.
He was a grind-out type fighter, just used to make it a grind-out type fight, and would bite down on that mouth guard and just take the fight to his opponents. A kind of opponent in Patrick Teixeira, which happened against Carlos Adames, where he just matched them punch for punch, and exchanging all that firepower eventually deteriorates you. And Patrick Teixeira ended up coming away with the win on that night.
You would have won that one.
So we move on to the next one, and you got Albert Puello, who is a former WBA champ at 140 pounds, fighting younger brother of Gary Russell Jr., Gary Antoine Russell. Now, this is a very, very good test for Gary Antoine Russell to see where he finds himself at. Both undefeated fighters. There's a WBC interim version of a title in line for this fight. The winner will become the interim to Devin Haney's full version WBC title. That's the interest here. A fast fighter in Gary Russell. You know that all the Russell brothers, all of them are fast-footed, fast-handed, possess decent power, chinny.
He's a southpaw too, to say.
Very awkward style, right? And
Yes.
Albert Puello, of course, a Latin fighter, an older fighter, more of a road warrior style, where he waits to see what the opponents bring for him to be able to adjust to. He's kind of an old school throwback fighter, where he's not the most elusive, not the funnest fighter to watch, but he's long, he's rangy, with decent power. I think the power is pretty equal here on this fight. I think the story of the night is going to be combinations and footwork between Russell and Puello.
Yeah, Russell, he has a great pedigree. He comes from a long line of great boxers in the family. Experience is there, especially at a young age. You know, when you're related to somebody that's been carrying the boxing flag for years, that tends to rub off on your boxing career. And this guy has it. He's a fast boxer. He's smooth. He's southpaw. I think this guy's pulling it off tonight.
So Puello, the interesting thing here to see is Puello's 22-0, 10 knockouts. What does that tell you? 22-0 with 10 knockouts.
Well, I just saw
looking at the resume and then the record 22-0 with 10 knockouts. Now you look at Gary Antoine Russell, 17-0
with 0 knockouts.
No, Gary Antoine Russell has 17 knockouts.
Oh, 17 knockouts.
He's a Subriel Matias of the same division.
But it just shows what kind of pedigree this guy is.
He does get hit. And his last fights, you've seen him. And sorry, I got my phone blaring here. So you see him in his last fights. He has been hit. He responds very well. I mentioned a little bit that he's chinny. He responds well when he gets hit, but he does get hit, and he does have the tendency to get shaken. His legs have not betrayed him yet, but Albert Puello could be that answer to or that problem for him. Albert Puello with the long rangy punches, it's kind of like a Ismael Barroso did to Rolly. The older style fighter, even though they're similar or in near similar stages of age, Albert Puello has that old school style where he might be able to catch Gary Antoine Russell and surprise him.
Hey, he might, but he's not the greatest puncher. Russell has a unblemished record right now.
Both of them unblemished, but the knockouts.
But the knockout, that's what I'm talking about. The 17-0 with 17 knockouts. Talk about we just talked about Subriel Matias, 20-1 with 20 knockouts. I mean, there's a reason why these guys have knockouts for every punch, every fight that they have, because they pack a punch. They really, truly pack a punch. Especially, like I just said, his boxing pedigree, his background, his family, it's in his blood. So this guy's a tough cookie. This guy's somebody to really be looking at in the future. 3
fights apart from Subriel Matias, as far as knockouts is concerned, this could potentially be a big opponent for Subriel Matias. Should he be successful later today, and then Gary Antoine Russell continues on his knockout streak, then he would improve to 18-0 with 18 knockouts should he stop Albert Puello. He's fast-handed. The pop that he possesses, I don't see either one with a huge power advantage. It's the way that Gary Russell releases those punches. What he lands, his punch selection is definitely levels higher than Albert Puello.
It's his ring IQ, the way he's been trained. I see great things coming to Gary Russell's future. I see great things. And
having the interim title in line, they're going to be in line knocking on that door of Devin Haney.
Exactly.
That's very interesting, right? Because anybody at this point that possesses a little bit of power and a high record knockout ratio like that is going to be issues for Devin Haney.
You know what? This guy has all the gifts. He has all the gifts.
How highly do you hold Devin Haney now? Now that we know that his chin got exposed, because it used to be tested.
I never thought he had a great chin. I think he's an outstanding boxer.
What made you think that he didn't have a great chin?
Because he's gotten hurt before. He's gotten
shaken.
He's got shaken
but
before.
the legs never betrayed him.
The legs never betrayed him. He recovered quick.
Linares
hit him. He recovers quickly. That's a great thing. That's his superpower, to say. He recovers real quick, real fast. That means his cardio is real good. His cardio is up to par. But after what I saw with Ryan Garcia, I don't know anymore.
I mean, he did get up.
He got up, but he did dropped.
Finish.
He got finished, but he was holding a lot throughout the fight.
He made it to a decision, right?
He made it to a decision, but how many times did he get dropped? And how was he holding up in that fight?
Did you ever get to see a bunch of the videos and memes that people were making about the referee punching Ryan Garcia?
But you know what? I did question the referee's decision right after the fight, even before I saw the memes and the outcry.
Like during the fight, there was a lot of stuff.
I did question the referee's decisions to maybe submit maybe a penalty points for holding Ryan Garcia too much. I did question the referee, but I I kept my mouth shut.
The 8 counts were taking a little bit longer.
They were taking a little longer.
Like a minute long.
And then the internet exploded with the refs on biased decision to really referee the fight.
Deduct a point.
And the only, what is it? He deducted a point for...
it was a punch after he separated him.
Yeah, a punch after he separated. He didn't even give him a warning. He just took the point off. And then,
which was kind of obvious. It was kind of blatant that Ryan Garcia did that. But the holding, it was amidst the break.
Dude.
It was amidst the break that Devin Haney continued to hold to where it wasn't clinching anymore. It was holding to prevent further damage, disrupting the flow of the fight. Which at some point the ref has to step in there.
Yeah,
it's either talk to the corner and be like, "Hey, is your fighter able to fight or not?" If he's not able to continue,
and I don't think I don't think that happened. I think that ref was. You know what? I don't get into the controversies of the fight. Yeah. It is what it is. When the hand gets raised, I've seen a lot of fights where the wrong fighter gets the win, and I don't play into that. It is what it is. We got to move on. We can't contest. The only thing that I do,
like the reason I was asking this, and to get back to the point, was because I think everybody now across boxing sees Devin Garcia different now. Because his chin, Jojo Diaz, we mentioned in the past, Jojo Diaz, Jorge Linares, Yuriorkis Gamboa, they all tested the chin, shaky legs. I think even Loma did. Shaky legs, but he would answer, he would clinch, he would find a way out, recover.
He recovers quick.
And get back in it. But now we saw this guy get dropped and mangled everywhere throughout the ring.
He had nothing for Ryan Garcia. Well, you know what? You got to also talk about...
But he survived, right? He made it to a decision. But now we see a Subriel Matias potential future fight with Devin Haney, if that ever happens. We see opponents like this, like Gary Antoine Russell or Albert Puello, and Ismael Barroso, who many thought had beat Rolly at that time when Rolly was the champion. Ismael Barroso, who continues his knockout ways. He's 50, 55 years old, claiming to be 40 still.
Yeah.
For some type of birth certificate there. But he still has a lot of pop, right?
Yeah, he does.
When you see somebody that has a heavy hand step into the ring, and we're talking about Gary Anton Russell with a perfect, unblemished 17 knockout,
you
17
record. You got to understand, they're not going to really want to submit.
If he wins, he's in line to face Devin Haney.
He's in line to face Devin Haney, but you know what? Is the fight going to happen? That's a question.
That's it.
That's a question. We all know the fight should happen. In the perfect world, the fight should happen, but is it really going to happen? Are the Haneys, is Papa Haney gonna let this guy go?
If Gary Russell Jr. wins tonight, beats Puello, and stops him, then he would be 18 wins, 18 knockouts, and the mandatory to Haney. If that fight gets signed and they're stepping into the ring and we're watching the entrances, Devin Haney enters, the announcement happens, Gary Russell enters, the bell rings. Who do you have as a favorite?
Oh, Russell.
Wow, Russell. Because of the knockout ratio.
Because of the knockout ratio, his pedigree, like I just said.
They would have similar footwork, similar hand speed.
Yeah, similar hand speed, but Russell carries a heavy hand. He carries a lead hand. And we just talked about Devin Haney's weak chin. Maybe not a weak chin, but he's been rocked before. You know what? Yeah. It's just, it's one of those things where on paper, I pick Russell.
It went from a suspect chin to an exposed chin. So now he's got to work on that. The issue that I had, and I'm a huge fan of Devin Haney, and you guys could check back, humble me, because I'm not a hypocrite. You guys could check back every episode I've covered on Haney, and I'm huge on Devin Haney. He's got to fix that. He knew the punch that he needed to take care of from and guard from, the left hand from Garcia. And that's what he got caught with over and over.
Garcia manhandled him too. It wasn't a clean fight. Garcia literally just manhandled him. Yeah. And there's no real answer to be manhandled besides you manhandling back the boxer. Yeah. If the boxer goes in there with a heavy body, you gotta fight fire with firing. And David Haney obviously didn't do that. David Haney's a boxer, not a puncher. So we got what we got that night.
And you got, other than that, I mean, I'm looking at the card right now. You got a lot of up-and-comers that are going to be there. Another veteran, though, that might be interesting to see, or two veterans. Justin Veloria is going to be fighting in their lower rank. Mark Magsayo has been in there with some big names. And Mark Magsayo, who ended up fighting the brother of Gary Anton Russell. He ended up fighting Gary Russell Jr. in the past. He's got a 25-2 record, getting himself back into title contention. Mark Magsayo is a Filipino fighter who has emulated the style of Manny Pacquiao. And he's in an interesting position right now because he lost back-to-back fights. He loses to Ray Vargas. He loses to Brandon Figueroa. And both tall, rangy, longer reach fighters than him. Then he gets back on his ways with Isaac Avalar, who was a decent opponent. He stops him. But you look at his past record before Ray Vargas, he fought Gary Russell Jr. and he beats him and he lifts the title from him. He took the WBC title from Gary Russell Jr. So this is a fighter who is finding his way, trying to get back into title contention, but his losses, he really got picked apart in both the Ray Vargas fight and the Brandon Figueroa fight. He was unable to defend the title that he lifted from Gary Russell and loses it to Ray Vargas in his very next outing. Ray Vargas has been champion since at 126.
Ray Vargas actually stopped him. Brandon Figueroa was a unanimous decision.
No, it was a split decision.
Was it a split decision?
Split decision that Ray Vargas got
Oh, I'm
over.
sorry.
So Vargas actually goes down in that fight, but Mark Magsayo, even though it was a puncher's chance type of fight that we always talk about, right? Mark Magsayo lunging forward, waiting for that power shot to land, where Ray Vargas was making it more of a boxing fight, more of a keeping him at bay, keeping him at range. And eventually, even though it was a close decision, Ray Vargas ended up being deemed the victor on that night in San Antonio. So then the Brandon Figueroa fight was a little bit harder for him, trying to find his way, trying to get himself back into a winning streak. And that's the interest here for Mark Magsayo leading to these fights. So again, fighting for a featherweight vacant title, but it's a small version to the WBA version that just got recently won by Nick Ball, who just defeated Ray Ford out in the 5v5. So that's an interesting fight to keep an eye on because the 126 is starting to stack up. Naoya Inoue looking to potentially join 126 from 122. Then you got Brandon Figueroa, you got Angelo Leo, you got, I think Sugar Nunez is campaigning there. If he's not, unless he moved to 130, and I may be confusing it, Ray Vargas being a champion. You got Venado Lopez, who's also a champion there. It's stacked. Everybody that was at 122, cool boy Steph Fulton, he's at 126 now. Everybody that was somebody at 122 is now moving up to 126.
Yeah.
And Mark Magsayo is going to have his work cut out for him. Brandon Figueroa being one of those guys, a former champ at 122 who's starting to tear through competition at 126. Yeah. Interesting fight there. And then with that said, let's take a deep breath because now we get to the co-main event.
The co-main event. It's about time.
So lead us in because this is the one that you've been waiting to get into.
So we got David Benavidez fighting who?
Fighting Oleksandr Gvozdyk.
Wow, where can I start with this one? This is going to be... So we all know who David Benavidez is. He has 3 nicknames. He's got the red flag. And then
La Bandera Roja.
La Bandera Roja. And then Mike Tyson gave him the Mexican Monster. And then he converted to the Monster. Because he's not 100% Mexican. And he did it out of respect to the Mexican culture. To the Mexican fans. Which, we love him. We adore him. He is what boxing, he is what Mexican boxing is all about. High intensity, go in there and just knuckle drag, duke it out. It's just pure action. It's fireworks when Benavidez is fighting. I'm a big fan personally of Benavidez.
Why is Benavidez not the main event to this fight?
Because Benavidez is a bigger name. I think Tank carries a huge name. Everybody calls him the face of boxing. I think he shares the stage with Canelo, to be honest with you.
Tank does.
Yeah, Tank does. But I think Benavidez is doing it. He could have had his own card. He could have done his own boxing. He could have had his own. I
don't think he's at the level.
He is at the level.
I'm a huge Benavidez fan, but he's not.
Oh, it's because you gotta understand. We gotta understand.
He's starting to be marketable.
No, every boxer out there is calling his name out. From James Toney to Mike Tyson, everybody's calling his name out. Even
shouting him out.
Yeah, shouting him out. Because if he's not been exposed yet, you know, and these guys are throwing his name out there, I mean, it's just a matter of time before he gets exposed. His opponent, oh my God, that guy's a monster too. This guy's a monster too.
His opponent, Oleksandr Gvozdyk, former Olympic partner, teammate of Vasily Lomachenko, Oleksandr Usyk, and
Bivol.
And Baranchyk.
Baranchyk. Oh, Bivol.
Baranchyk. And Baranchyk just became, he was the last one to complete the circle for Ukraine when he beat Navarrete. Becomes a WBO champion at 135. Oleksandr Usyk becomes undisputed against Tyson Fury. Vasily Lomachenko, a week prior, becomes IBF champ at 135. Baranchyk and Lomachenko, champs, fellow countrymen, same division. And then their last partner, who was a former WBC champ, the only loss in his record is against Beterbiev. Knocked out in the 10th round after the third time he gets dropped. Beterbiev is no joke. This is not
Beterbiev is no joke. Did you see the fight? Beterbiev actually outboxed him. And Beterbiev is not a boxer.
You think Beterbiev outboxed Gvozdyk?
Oh, yes. Yes, so, most definitely.
Okay.
And Beterbiev is not a boxer. He's actually a puncher. And that's why the Beterbiev-Bivol fight would have been such a great fight, because it would have been your classic boxer against puncher. But it's never happened.
But what if we see it's going to happen? I think they're rescheduled for October this year.
No, but I'm saying it's not happening right now because
it didn't happen when it was
hurt.
Yeah, it didn't happen when it was supposed to. Now, does that mean that Beterbiev would have a boxing chance against Bivol? Because everybody's seeing that Beterbiev would knock out or stop Bivol, at least the majority. They think that he would stop him by power, but that Bivol is the better boxer.
Bivol's a better boxer. He has better footwork. And it's one of those things.
But you just said Beterbiev outboxed Gvozdyk, so would we see a boxing?
I think he outboxed Gvozdyk.
Or was it a one-time done?
It was a one-time thing, because Beterbiev is actually a puncher, and if you see his fights, he likes to go in there and manhandle his opponent.
He just mauls people.
He mauls people, but Bivol, he boxes. Look at what happened to Canelo. He boxed the living bejesus out of Canelo.
The reason I'm emphasizing this is because Gvozdyk is a boxer. And we're expecting to see Gvozdyk outbox and outsmart Benavidez today.
Do you think I'm calling it, or you think
Yeah, no, what the interest to me is to think that somebody who's a pure boxer would be outboxed by a power puncher.
Exactly. And that's what I thought. I couldn't believe it.
So to me, Beterbiev he was just hurting him. No matter what Gvozdyk was trying, the power of Beterbiev is real.
And that's probably what happened. I think he was getting hurt.
That's like he was walking him down.
Beterbiev started walking him down and started outboxing him.
So we see Benavidez for the first time, at least that I could remember. This is the first time that I've seen Benavidez shorter and outsized. Gvozdyk is actually wider. He's a little bit more defined, muscularity speaking. Yeah. And he's taller. He's slightly taller. We saw the face-off of the weigh-in yesterday. Gvozdyk is a little bit taller. So rehydration is one thing. Now, we got David Benavidez, who's normally a big body that cuts down to 168. Gvozdyk walks around maybe about 12 pounds above the 175-pound limit. Benavidez shooting up. He said it was the most comfortable weigh-in that he had because he didn't have to cut down to 168. He had less pounds to cut. The difference is Benavidez has come up from 160 to 168. Where he loses power is in the weight cut. But he gains it with the rehydration and being bigger than most of the fighters that campaign in those divisions. Gvozdyk, we're talking about him going against Beterbiev, and aside from that fight, being undefeated since he was an amateur standout for Ukraine. That's where I see the difference. You got somebody who's always campaigned at 175, getting hit and retaining the punching power of bigger fighters than what Benavidez has experienced.
Benavidez is coming up. Yeah, he's putting more weight. He's losing punching power, and he dominated the 160. Help me out. 165,
160, and 168,
and 168, 160. He dominated.
So this is 175
now.
So
175. So he's
and Gvozdyk's always been here.
But the thing about Benavidez is a volume puncher. Gvozdyk is not a volume puncher. Benavidez has a different style than Gvozdyk. Gvozdyk is a long, lengthy fighter. Benavidez likes to stand in the pocket. He likes to exchange. And he does heavy exchanging. And he fights off his guard, his defense. And it's one of those things where can can Benavidez take the punches? And number two, can he keep up? Can he give out the same amount of power he did at 160, 168?
So
that's the question.
There's a huge intrigue here, and there's multiple points I'm going to make. Most recently, in that 5v5 that it was Matchroom Queensberry, we saw Daniel Dubois fight Filip Hrgovic. That what I'm getting at is that those guys, Daniel Dubois coming up to fight Filip Hrgovic, the machine, the unbeatable man that was Hrgovic, Daniel Dubois outboxed him, cut him up, beat him. The intrigue and the leading story to that fight was that they were former sparring partners, that Hrgovic was destroying him 10 years prior, just wiping the floor with Dubois. Dubois was like, I want this fight, give it to me. And what does he do? He outboxes him. As pros, it translated differently than the sparring sessions. Benavidez and Gvozdyk had 3 sparring sessions years ago where Gvozdyk was on the up and up challenging better opposition at a higher weight. Benavidez was still middleweight to 168, trying to define his career. Nobody will talk about those sparring sessions. Nobody knows how they go. Common sense would tell me that Gvozdyk got the better of Benavidez back then.
Because he was smaller.
Maybe younger.
Younger.
But now we see a Benavidez as at the best moment in his career, who's maybe the way that you see the confidence in the press conferences, at least in the lead-in and the interviews, you see Gvozdyk very calm, almost as if he's got a card backing him up, like he's got the history of getting the better of him as sparring. And Benavidez has got his confidence like, almost like, wait till I get in there with you. Wait till you see the version that I am now.
Well, you know what, honestly, I never get into the sparring sessions, because they're sparring sessions. It's not the real deal. You see a lot of boxers brag about, oh yeah, like Tank Davis and Martin right now, they sparred back in the day, and they're bragging about that. Tanks is even showing them the footage from the sparring session. That means nothing. That's sparring. That's play toys. You know, the real deal happens when you put on the whatever ounce gloves, 8-ounce gloves, 10-ounce gloves, 12-ounce gloves, without headgear, and this one's for real, 12 rounds. That's what I'm talking about. I don't really play a lot into the sparring sessions, because sparring is sparring. This is a real deal. This is for all the marbles. This is for the payday.
There is fighters that because of sparring sessions in the past, they've avoided other fighters.
Yeah.
Because they felt the power. So one of the things that we know was the confidence years ago, right? Let's talk, and we're going to age ourselves, obviously, by talking about this fight. When Oscar De La Hoya was going through the Pan Am Games and started sparring with Julio Cesar Chavez and got the best of him. And Oscar De La Hoya, and it was on VHS video. You can still find these videos. That's where the hype of De La Hoya came. Then he goes to the Olympics. Then years later, they face off against each other. If he got his number as a teenager, it was only due that he was going to get him as a pro.
Yes and no, but you can't use De La Hoya as an example, because
the other one is the Berlanga, Edgar Berlanga more recently, right?
De La Hoya didn't beat Chavez. He cut Chavez and they stopped him. All right, he cut his eye.
Well, then the rematch.
And then the rematch, he cut his tongue. So there weren't real stoppages. You can't really include that.
Those will be a whole nother episode. De La Hoya destroyed him. So, in my opinion,
I'm going to go there with that. So, you know what? Like I said, it's just one of those things. Yeah, you do have boxers that spar with other. Mayweather's a perfect example. He spars these top-level fighters, and he heats them up for breakfast. But because he's like echelons above these normal fighters, so obviously they're not gonna hold any water in the ring with a Mayweather.
So you're gonna see Gvozdyk, in my opinion. I see the fight going traditional boxing versus a slugger. And you're gonna see a methodical, strategic Gvozdyk versus a lesser puncher, or at least not as a strong puncher in Benavidez at this weight. The story for me is going to be the accumulation of damage that Benavidez could inflict on Gvozdyk. Because Beterbiev did it, but Beterbiev, same level as Gvozdyk, right? He took the title from him. They're fighting at a heavier weight. That's the only way I see Benavidez winning this is going to be accumulation of punches. And because we know he does possess punching power. He has knockout power. So he's got to hit him 3-1.
He also has a lot of ring IQ. He has extreme ring IQ. He look at what he did with Andrade. Andrade couldn't.
But he doesn't have the greatest defense. He gets hit a lot.
No, he gets hit. That's what I just said.
And Andrade hit him a lot.
Andrade, yeah, he got hit a lot, but in the end, Benavidez stopped him.
Yeah.
And this guy was an undefeated fighter.
But we're looking at a 160 fighter that hit him a lot.
I know, but I'm just saying, Andrade everybody was afraid of this guy. Nobody wanted to go in there. So Benavidez.
I think that was do you really believe everybody was scared of Andrade? I don't believe it.
You know what?
I don't think Golovkin was. He's just not marketable. He didn't bring anything to.
He was very. Orthodox.
Nobody's scared of Bivol Andrade. I didn't believe it.
It's not that they were afraid of him. It's just they couldn't figure out his style. That's what I think was a problem. Yeah. They couldn't figure out his style.
It was an ugly fight, regardless of.
Yeah, he's not a true pedigree boxer. It was made up as they went along, and that's the way I look at it. And Benavidez, the way Benavidez fights, he just went in there and mauled him. And I'm like, I don't have a response to Andrade. I'm just gonna go in there and do what I do best, and I'm just gonna.
Which he did good, right? He retained, he sustained, and then he delivered, right? Because he kept taking everything that Andrade had. But that goes to my point that he's been taking on smaller fighters. He was unable to stop Caleb Plant. And Caleb Plant took everything and got dropped and got bloodied.
Held him a lot. We never talk about Caleb Plant did hold Benavidez a lot. And that's the thing. So everybody compares them right now. So I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go there with the Canelo Benavidez, and we've had this conversation.
Don't go there.
We had this conversation so many times, and we always agree to disagree. So I'm not gonna go there, but I'm gonna go.
Swap me beers because that one's already warm.
But I'm gonna go there.
So you can get a cold one because this is gonna be a long one right now. Once you get into
I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet.
Let's do it.
Benavidez, he's had our smaller oppositions, but he always rises to the occasion.
You got the opener?
No, you do.
All right.
He always rises to the occasion. Doesn't matter who the fighter is. He always rises to the occasion. So, this is what I'm looking at.
Okay.
I'm looking at this. Benavidez is your traditional Mexican boxer. He goes in there and he fights. He doesn't run. He walks, and he.
I feel like when I talk to you, I come across as a David Benavidez hater. I'm not a hater.
No. I'm not saying you hate. But another thing is Benavidez goes to the body a lot. To fight somebody like Gvozdyk, he's gonna have to attack the body. I think Benavidez pulls this one off. I think he stops.
Like Gvozdyk or Usyk.
Usyk.
Oh, Gvozdyk. The one from tonight?
Yeah, that one from tonight.
Okay, Gvozdyk. Because Usyk is the heavyweight champ.
No.
Okay.
I think Benavidez pulls this one off.
So, do you see a decision or you think he stops him? This is hard. Like, this is a really
unknown is a power.
Fight.
The unknown is a power.
Yeah.
But
how it's going to translate in this division.
And 175. Because Benavidez does have a lot of power as 168.
Is it fair to say that since the fight that everybody's clamoring for is like Canelo can't get away, right? If he fights Benavidez, now everybody's clamoring for Crawford. And Crawford has no business, in my opinion, being in there with Canelo.
Crawford has zero business.
But
zero.
Yeah, everybody says because he's such an excellent welterweight and 140-pounder, two-time undisputed.
They're pounds apart.
That his boxing is so good that he's going to be able to beat the power of Canelo.
They're pounds apart.
And this is discarding Canelo's boxing. Canelo has really good boxing and really good defense. And really good counterpunching. So now if the Munguia fight didn't happen in May and he would have fought Benavidez, if that would have been successful for Canelo, it would have been, let's fight. How come Canelo stays away from Mexican fighters in Munguia? Then he fights him. Then how come he doesn't want to fight Crawford? He doesn't want to fight black fighters. That was the narrative a few years ago. It's never ending.
Do you know who opened up my eyes to Canelo? My wife did. She's not a boxing fan. She watches what I watch, and she can care two cents about boxing. But she said it, and it opened up my eyes. She actually said it to me one day, and it opened up my eyes. She's like, "What do they want from Canelo? He's fought everybody they asked him to, and he's not getting the credit that he deserves." Now they want him to fight Benavidez. At what point is it enough is enough with Canelo? He's on his way to retirement. I think he has 2 more fights before he retires.
He wants to go to 36, so
we'll see. But he's already 33, 34?
33. I think
he's on his way out. You know what? Benavidez, he's already decided to forget about Canelo, make his own path to greatness, which I think that's the best thing for Benavidez. But
I think
this
the fight
is a
will
perfect
happen.
example.
I think the fight will happen. What my curiosity is that if we remove Benavidez from the conversation, because you brought up the Canelo Benavidez, if we remove Benavidez, just if he didn't exist, who else does Canelo have to beat at 168?
Nobody.
He's gotten everybody.
Yeah.
But yet they're saying he doesn't fight mandatories.
Well, it's because the thing about it is
because there's always going to be somebody new, right?
Because it's always going to be the hero fighting the villain. And I think that's what we're looking at. Canelo's a hero, and everybody's looking at Benavidez as a villain, and they really want to see that fight. When Chavez was a champion, Chavez used to sell stadiums. I mean, I remember watching Chavez as a little kid, and that was my idol. That was my hero.
Yeah.
To me, Chavez was bigger than Superman. You know what I mean? And now Canelo's carrying that torch, obviously. So now it's Canelo's turn to fight the villain, per se. But that's boxing. Should I think Canelo should fight Benavidez? I say yes. For a fan,
I think it's gonna happen.
point of view, for a fight's point of view, a fighter's point of view, I think it should happen. But
I think the narrative has to come out that, because nobody talks about this, and it's very unfair, it's very selfish, and nobody brings this out. I think if the narrative comes out that Canelo beats Benavidez, or fights Benavidez for that matter, not beat him, if he just fights him, that it's nobody could say anything about Canelo anymore at that point.
No, nobody can say. I think
nobody will say that, because now they're throwing Crawford in there. Then they wanted to do Canelo and Spence at the Texas Stadium in Texas.
Crawford is a joke. Crawford doesn't know who to fight. He fought Spence, obviously.
I mean, he's not a joke. He's a 2-time undisputed.
Well, yes, but no, I'm saying it's a joke fighting.
Fight, it's a circus fight.
It's a circus fight.
The mega fight. We just saw it with Charlo and Canelo, and it's a difference. Yes. Maybe Crawford is a little bit more defined as far as boxistically speaking, or maybe a lot more defined boxistically speaking. But when we talk about the levels to the game and the reason for there being weight divisions, we saw it with Canelo's power versus Charlo, where Charlo was knocking people out at 154 to become undisputed, and he faces an even stronger puncher, shorter, and by size, when you look at him, Charlo belonged in that ring, but because he's used to different opposition, he had no business.
Yeah, but Charlo didn't even fight a fight. He ran the whole entire night, so that was.
Well, he felt the power.
Yeah, he was. That wasn't even a real fight.
He felt the power.
He felt the power. Like I said, my respects to Canelo. My hats off to Canelo. If he fights Benavidez, that'd be great for boxing fans. If he doesn't fight,
it'd be huge. Yeah.
If he doesn't fight Benavidez, guess what? He's gonna go off as one of the greatest of all time. He's going to be up there with the best Mexican fighters of all time. It's not going to really tarnish his reputation. It's just one of those things where, he didn't fight Benavidez.
As far as speaking from the point of view of Canelo and Canelo fans, right? They're saying that David Benavidez doesn't bring anything to the table marketability-wise. This is proof, because I just brought it up at the beginning of the episode, just poking the bear. He's the co-main event. He's not selling his own event. Why didn't they pick Tank on a different night, and then Benavidez headlining a massive card like the one that we just talked about right now?
I think Benavidez could. I think he could. He can do his own card, but I think he just wanted to. I didn't think he wanted the hassle. So he wanted to fight underneath Tank Davis.
This is huge for him. It's gonna just the fact that he's part of this card. It's only gonna build his and if he performs beautifully like we're used to.
Well,
then it's only going to grow his name.
He's fighting the wrong opponent, because this guy is a real tough opponent.
You think Gvozdyk is
I think it's a sequel.
Because let's just say we have Benavidez as a champ at 168 still.
Yeah.
So I don't see him abandoning that version of the title. He's the interim to Canelo at 168 in WBC. I don't see him abandoning that title. I see him doing exactly what Canelo did after he fought Bivol, where he gets a title And if it was successful, then he would start moving up for a mega fight, but still keep the throne. Where I think Gvozdyk is Benavidez' Bivol, as Bivol was to Canelo.
I think it is. At first,
and Canelo came up short when he tested the next division.
Yeah.
This could very well be it.
Well, this is where the plane evens out for Benavidez.
This is a big test that people are not looking. Like people that are huge Benavidez fans are overlooking Gvozdyk because they don't know him.
They don't know him, and I did look into him, and I was that person that Benavidez is gonna bug him. It's gonna finish him. He's gonna finish him in the first round. And because I'm a big Benavidez fan, but after doing a little bit of homework, he's got a fight coming.
It's an uphill climb for Benavidez.
It really is. If he can pull this off with a knockout and a great performance, it's gonna skyrocket.
And it's the same thing we're talking about. We don't want to make too much of sparring sessions, right? But he's got sparring sessions with Bivol also.
Yeah, he does.
In the Benavidez does, right? So this fight puts him in line for an interim title of the WBC, which Beterbiev holds. So if that fight ever happens between Bivol and Beterbiev, Benavidez would be knocking on the door, and marketability-wise, he would be the best option for either Beterbiev or Bivol to get into this fight payday-wise, right?
Yeah, that would be a monster fight for either or. That would be a monster fight.
And Gvozdyk winning this title is trying to get that rematch with Beterbiev.
Yeah, but he already lost against Beterbiev.
Badly.
Yeah, he lost bad. He didn't hold the cup. He didn't hold water towards Beterbiev.
Yeah.
So, okay.
How will Gvozdyk do with Bivol?
Oh, Bivol beats him.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think Bivol's the one to beat. I think Bivol fucking beats Beterbiev.
I mean, that performance he had against Malik Sina just a few weeks ago in that 5v5, we hadn't seen Bivol knock anybody out in 10 fights, including Canelo's fight. He couldn't, and then he destroys this guy
because
who got
he's a
thrown
boxer.
in there.
He's a boxer. He's not a puncher.
Yeah,
which is a big difference. There's a big difference in those styles. You know, this is your money maker.
He's a big pressure fighter. It's impressive to see Bivol.
I would love to see Benavidez against Bivol.
Wow.
Regardless who wins tonight, I think that would be
so. Do you think if Benavidez beats Gvozdyk tonight, if he's successful, does he abandon the 168 title and keeps his interim 175?
No.
Or do you think he keeps that door open for Canelo?
I think he keeps that open. That's a mega fight. That's 1 in a million fights right there. Yeah. Look at on paper. That's probably going to be the biggest fight right now. On paper, like I said, I'm not a big fan of Crawford fighting Canelo. I like Crawford. I think he's an excellent fighter. I love how he beats Spence. But Crawford does not match up good.
Do you think Benavidez Canelo's bigger than Benavidez or Canelo Crawford?
Canelo Benavidez is bigger.
What about, is Canelo Benavidez like Usyk and Tyson Fury? That was a big undisputed title fight that we all wanted to see, right?
Yeah.
It should have been Fury Joshua.
Because you know what? As much as Crawford wants to talk, he's too small to fight Benavidez.
What about Canelo? Because he's in talks to fight Canelo.
He's also too small to fight Canelo. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Canelo's a big guy.
Can he outbox him and outsmart him?
He can outbox him, but Canelo's a masterful boxer too.
I mean, Crawford is an unorthodox fighter. He's not like
he gets hit. And with Canelo, me personally, I think Canelo finishes him. Canelo's a tremendous boxer. He's too much of a power puncher for Crawford.
He's a power puncher and a counter puncher.
So let's say they do fight. What weight would they fight in? You see what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Canelo's not coming down.
He's not coming down. It wouldn't benefit him. Obviously, he's already 33 years old. How old is Crawford? 28, 30?
No, he's older. Yeah. So the intrigue, I guess, is Terrence Crawford, boxing history-wise, is one of the absolute best to do it because not even Mayweather did it, right? This guy has unified 2 divisions, the 140 and the 147, but he hasn't defended the undisputed title in either division. He never defended the 140. Now he's already vacated titles. You got interim Mario Barrios at welterweight. You got Imantas Estañones of WBA now. You have, who else? Who just won Brian Norman Jr.
he's
when I was in
following the
San
money.
Diego got the WBO interim. So now we're waiting to see if he beats Madrimov. If he does, then he becomes 154. He doesn't do he doesn't defend his title at welterweight. So where's the undisputed throne?
He's following the money. He's not serious like Mayweather. He's not serious.
Canelo's been defending the 168 throne every fight.
He has, but Crawford is not really serious about defending his titles. I think he's more looking for his, those money fights, those big money fights, and that's where his interest is.
He's got the backing now,
and
he's got the Saudis backing him now.
Mayweather at the end of his career, he wasn't holding any belts. He was just beating the hell out of people. They're making those big money fights, and that's how he went out. And I think Crawford's doing the same thing. Yeah, I think he's not following to defend his title. He just wants to. That's why he wants to fight Canelo.
And he's on the back end of his career as well.
He's at the back end of his career.
He's got big money backing him now. Turki Al-Sheikh just came out saying that he's going to be the ambassador for Riyadh for the Saudi Arabia fights. So Crawford being the official ambassador now, with money backing him, they're going to do everything possible to get that mega fight with Canelo.
If he can make the Benavidez fight, that would be a huge fight for him. Besides Canelo,
I almost feel like they're going to make the Canelo Crawford fight before the Benavidez fight to be able to get the $200 million for the Benavidez fight to that Canelo's asking for.
I don't know.
I think they're going to draw so much money. They'll draw so much money from Canelo and Crawford that they'll be able to afford Canelo Benavidez.
What is Crawford fighting at right now? 154?
He's going to fight at 154 in August.
154, Canelo's at 168.
That's what Charlo did to go up 154 to 168.
And look at what happened to Charlo.
That's what I'm saying.
He got stopped. He didn't hold water. So I think, and then especially putting on that extra weight, you slow down, your power's not there. So all the gifts that Crawford has at 154, he's probably going to lose them at 168. Yeah. And Canelo said he's not dropping weight anymore.
He's not. You know what? He calls the shots.
And I think Canelo's...
Which is interesting because he's undisputed at 168, but Crawford's two-time undisputed, yet Canelo is the draw. You get what I'm saying?
Well, because he has an extensive history.
You only have 3 fighters that have been undisputed twice.
He has an extensive history.
And that's Usyk, Naoya and Crawford, yet Canelo calls the shots.
Oh, Canelo calls the shots. Yeah. Look at his pedigree. Look at his background. Look at all the fighters he's fought. Yeah. It would only be, sensible to say Canelo's going to call the shots. Crawford's only looking for a big money fight. You know what? Fight Benavidez. If you really want a money fight, fight Benavidez. Fight Benavidez at 154.
And the winner goes at Canelo.
Yeah.
That would be ideal.
That would be monster. That would be monster. Well, we're talking about dream. Yeah. We're talking about a dream here.
Yeah, that's crazy. So we got Benavidez coming into this 28-0, 3-time WBC interim champ. Never full.
Never full.
Was he ever full? I don't think he was ever full.
No.
And then he lost the titles, right? He lost the titles due to weight cut. He lost the titles due to drugs. But this is a different Benavidez than back then. He was young. He was dumb.
He's dumb. Yeah.
Doing stupid decisions.
He's more serious about his career now.
This is David Benavidez. This is a monster. Should he be successful, he's going to get another interim title.
I don't think he should be fighting at 175.
Now, it's the Bivol Canelo effect all over.
Yeah.
If Gvozdyk wins, this isn't a far cry, right? For Gvozdyk to win, all he's going to be doing is defending his division. The new guy trying to come up to my division, he's just going to do his job. He wins, he gets a shot at running it back with Beterbiev, which we know how it's going to end, even if they rematch. But all he's going to... The ideal or the sensible thing to think is that Gvozdyk should win this fight because it's his division.
Well, it's a different fighter. It's a different fighter coming from two different weight classes, and his boxing style is way different than
Benavidez loses this fight. I bet you anything that it entices Canelo more to want to do this because they both have experienced the same thing, and now we know, like, this will prove that the punching power may not be fully real.
I think if Benavidez loses, I think Canelo's gonna be...
It's kind of like Subriel Matias, what we're talking about, right? You almost want to look bad to bring everybody
into the ring.
Well,
I think if Benavidez loses this fight, I think Canelo's gonna be less enticed. Saying that, you see?
Yeah.
Because if Canelo fights Benavidez, understand this. Benavidez is gonna have a fight. Canelo's gonna have a fight. It's going to be a dog fight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say it, dude.
Yeah, I will.
I was very impressed how Canelo handled Munguia.
It was supposed to be a dogfight.
It was supposed to be a dogfight, but Canelo just he could have beat Munguia with one hand tied behind his back.
Yeah.
But
I think he could have stopped them, and I don't know why he didn't.
I think he wanted to just pass the torch on. But if he fights Benavidez, it's going to be a dogfight across the board, dude.
Yeah, Canelo won't take it easy.
Yeah, he won't take it easy.
Did he take it easy with Munguia? A lot of people are saying that he carried him, and I don't know if he carried him.
Canelo could have stopped him in the third or fourth round.
I feel that...
Canelo,
yes, and like you could make the argument for it, right? There's a lot of clips that support it. When I did the episode to that fight, I watched the fight several times. I like the fact that Munguia kept hitting him. And for me, if somebody's going to carry you, at some point, you're going to be like, all right, hey, I'm going easy on you. You're still trying to pop me in the mouth. And Munguia kept trying to, and he did. He connected really hard shots in the 11th round. And Canelo still, that's when they're claiming that Canelo carried him.
He carried him. There's
videos on it, but I didn't believe that he carried him based on the fact that Munguia kept hitting him hard. It wasn't a dance anymore. Munguia was trying to get his. So if you're going easy on someone and they're popping you in the mouth, eventually you're going to be like, hey, all right, that's enough.
Canelo looked masterful.
Yeah.
Canelo looked masterful against Munguia.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say it, but I was like, this guy is on two different levels than Munguia.
And I don't think Munguia becomes champ at 168 until Canelo leaves.
No.
Canelo has to leave, and Benavidez has to leave.
I think Benavidez comes down.
I would love to see Benavidez Munguia.
Yeah. I think Benavidez comes down, and I think Benavidez beats Munguia. I honestly do. I know you're not a big fan of Benavidez.
I am a fan.
I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of Benavidez.
I'm not a hater of Benavidez whatsoever. I like what Benavidez brings to the table. I think people are blowing him up to be too much sooner than he is. Tonight's a huge test.
But you can't call this a test because he's fighting at 175. That's not even his weight division. He's just moving up.
But he's looking to move up, which is the same thing that Canelo did, right? You're looking to be great and challenging other people that are tested, right? So this is a former champ that has been at the top. He was the champ. Gvozdyk was the man at WBC.
Canelo was at 154?
When he started, yeah. And 147, I think, started, and then 154.
Who would never think he would be fighting at 168?
Yeah. Let alone 175.
175. Yeah. So, the possibilities are there. Benavidez is a taller, lengthy fighter. Canelo's more compact, and he carries a big punch. I don't think Benavidez will carry that type of punch at 175, where he's at right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. How do you call it then? You see a Benavidez win over Gvozdyk? Do you want to call it, or you just want to leave it up to a recap?
I'm going to call it. I think Benavidez finishes the fight.
He stops Gvozdyk?
No, he doesn't stop him. He'll win by points.
Okay.
Because Benavidez is a volume puncher. Gvozdyk. He's a tall, lengthy fighter. He leaves his body open a lot. I think Benavidez is gonna take advantage of that. I think he's gonna attack the body. I don't think he has the punching power to stop him. So I'm pretty sure he's gonna outpoint him, and it's gonna be long, but it's gonna be a great fight.
Decision victory for Benavidez?
Oh yes, I think it's gonna be a great fight. It's gonna be. But you know what? Benavidez is gonna get tested. If he gets dropped, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. The fact that he leaves himself so open because of the way that he attacks.
Yeah.
He doesn't care almost. He's almost so trusting in his power, which is what could tend to abandon him when he's facing big power punchers like this, right? He's a better boxer. He's definitely a true boxer versus a slugger is what we're going to see tonight. Yeah. And if he leaves himself open, Gvozdyk's going to find those openings. That's going to be the test. For me, it's a gauge to see the punching power of Benavidez. If he stops Gvozdyk, you just did what Beterbiev did to the same man who was at the top of the division. I'm going to be like, Canelo has no business being in there with this guy. This guy's going to kill him.
You know what? After what I saw with Munguia, at first I thought Canelo was going to... Honestly, I believe Canelo was going to get beat down by Benavidez. But after seeing him fight Munguia...
He's smart.
I don't know now. Yeah. I question what I saw. I question my own knowledge as following boxers. Because what I saw with Canelo, he was masterful. In Munguia's fighting Munguia. And Munguia, he's a tough, scrappy fighter, even though he was fighting with Freddie Roach, and Freddie Roach is teaching him the Muhammad Ali type of boxing where you're boxing and not scrapping. Canelo took some solid punches and made him phase them, and Canelo just looked masterful. And now
it was interesting. Yeah,
I think Canelo needs to fight Benavidez, and he needs to quiet the masses. I personally think, I don't know, I'm not gonna call it anymore because, you know what I saw with Canelo Munguia.
It would be a 50-50.
It would be a 50-50.
All right, so we got Benavidez 28-0, and then we got Gvozdyk 20-1. Is that his record? 20-1?
Yeah, I'd be so.
20-1 with 16 knockouts.
16 knockouts.
And of course that loss to Beterbiev, who's the monster at 175. Yeah, that's an interesting one, and one that I think we spent the better half of a half hour on this one, because this is an exciting one, right?
But
Benavidez,
you know what?
we're so big on Benavidez that we want to see where he's at and who he is right now as a fighter. I love the fact that he's testing himself and that he's doing this.
But you know what? This is a
he's finding
fight.
his own path.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. This is a win for the fans.
Yeah,
it's a win for the fans. All these fights are wins for the fans. I mean, we've been going through some dry times for the last 3-4 years.
Well, last year was good.
Last year was good, but before that,
oh yeah.
You know, so all this is a win for the fans. Even if whoever wins, whoever loses, you know what? Let's support these guys. Better fights. You know, let's follow these guys when they get their next opponent, because you know what? These guys are coming to the table and put it in all on the line, and that's what we need. We don't need those. Yeah, we don't need those
tune-ups.
Those tune-ups, dude.
Yeah.
No.
The intrigue that they have history behind them that relates back to the sparring days, that Gvozdyk willing to accept it against a big name like Benavidez, and that Benavidez is willing to step up in the division to challenge a former champ. There's a lot of intrigue here with this fight.
That's very respectable. That's very honorable.
Yep.
In the boxing world right now, because you don't normally see that anymore.
Yeah.
You don't see that anymore.
Daring to be great. And then, of course, last but not least, what a long episode. This is the longest episode that I think I've done ever.
I feel like my wife talking to me.
So this is it. Let's get back to the main event, or let's jump into the main event. Tank versus Frank. Gervonta Davis stepping into the ring with a 29-0 record. Frank Martin, 18-0. The story behind this is Frank Martin, out of Derek James's camp, has sparred and been a partner of Errol Spence out of that Texas camp that has produced so many big fighters. Actually trained with Ryan Garcia as he was preparing for Devin Haney. Frank Martin, who has sparring history with Tank, that's made the news and the rounds because of this. That he ends up having brick hands is what they're talking about. Even Tank mentions it at a conference that we all know Frank has power. He's got good footwork. His last fight was a little bit of maybe a dull fight, but he nearly had Haratunian out in the 6th round. The same guy that's about to fight Shakur next month. So it was a tough fight, and Haratunian reminds me a lot of Vanes Martirosyan and what he used to do years ago, the Armenian fighter style, that they're fast, they're slick, but they have power. So he gave Frank Martin a really good fight. It goes all the way, 12 rounds. Haratunian did some work, but Frank Martin ended up getting the decision win on that one. Haratunian took a knee in the last round, right in the closing round.
Yep.
So Frank Martin was inflicting his damage. Haratunian held his own. Good chin, good power. That's what Shakur's got in front of him here in a month's time. Frank Martin's got good experience behind him, good boxing pedigree, a lot of power. This is a boxer that used to be at a heavier weight, or a man that used to be at a heavier weight that has become a boxer at a lighter division. And he's really good. When he defeated Michel Rivera, who were both undefeated at that time, that was a fight that was a 50-50 fight, and he made it look easy. So now that he gets into this fight with Tank, having a little history there, it's hard to pick against Tank because we know what Tank brings to the table. Gervonta's provided us with memory after memory and highlight after highlight. But the accusation has always been that he's fighting lesser opposition or picking the weaker opposition of each division, which was the Mayweather format. He picked on Mario Barrios at 140 to pick a portion of the 140-pound titles instead of having picked on Jose Ramirez or Josh Taylor at that time, who were champs. He picked on Leo Santa Cruz at 130 when we knew that Leo Santa Cruz is really a 126 fighter. And then, so
but he had a dogfight with Santa Cruz.
Yeah, it was
really a dogfight. It was actually, it's like he was out of his comfort zone. He was actually
and then the Pitbull
trading
Cruz,
the Pitbull Cruz.
The other thing that they criticize with Gervonta is the weight clauses that he imposes on fighters. He did it to Ryan Garcia. He's doing it to Frank Martin. So he's keeping them within a certain weight, but he's got that draw, right? Just like we were talking, I don't know if it was this episode or an earlier one, as to the champions being able to call certain shots. Well, he's the draw. He's able to call certain shots on contract. And they abide to it if they want to get in a fight with Tank.
Well, he's bringing in the money. He's bringing in the publicity. So,
it's hard to pick against Tank, but this is a really interesting fight for me, boxistically speaking. I just feel, in my opinion, Frank is going to get tired in the second half of the fight because he possesses a lot of muscle. He brings a lot of muscle. He's a heavier fighter. Heavy hands. When he throws with so much strength that eventually your stamina bar starts dropping a little bit. And I think he's going to gas in the second half of the fight. And that's where Gervonta's going to land that powerful left.
Yeah, and the thing we're overlooking is that Gervonta Davis is a very smart boxer. He sets you up. Let's talk about Rolly Romero. Let's talk about Leo Santa Cruz. He was going toe-to-toe with him until they got caught. So he sets you up. And one of the, I forgot who was one of the fighters that was being interviewed. He's like, dude, he doesn't hit hard. He's just so fast and he hits you so clean that you don't see that punch coming. Yeah. So Gervonta is who he is for a reason, because this is what he brings to the table. Frank Martin, he's barely getting his feet wet at that level. He's going after the main guy. He's going after the best of the best right now. The face of boxing.
He was supposed to fight Shakur in October and then pulled out of that fight.
There's a reason for that.
And apparently this is the reason why.
Yeah.
He pulled out because he had this card in hand that he knew he could get a fight with Gervonta. So it was a bigger money fight. And then Shakur ended up fighting Edwin de los Santos, and it was like one of the worst fights in boxing history, right? Where the least amount of punches thrown in a championship fight. Whatever that was, right? But Frank versus Shakur would have been a great test and kind of eliminating one of the top dogs either way.
No, because 135. I look at it like it's more for the boxing fans to talk about. You know what I mean? It's more.
It's definitely created a lot of narrative.
A lot of narrative. So I'm excited about this fight. We finally see Tank fighting somebody with the same speed, power, with the same.
I think Tank beats him on speed. I think boxistically, pedigree-wise, Frank Martin probably boxes a little bit better than Tank. He blocks a lot better.
He does.
He's able to parry punches a lot better. But the footwork and the speed of delivery lands with Tank, and it always does with the left hand.
It does.
He sneaks a left hand in there somehow.
He sneaks. He's good. He's fast. He's quick. He's smart. He does get hit, but I don't know if it's out of drawing in the opposition, so he could get his take his. It's kind of like he's getting hit, so he can.
He baits him.
Yeah, he baits him, and then once he gets a clean shot, there goes the left uppercut.
He also uses his height to an advantage, right? He's usually the shorter.
But this guy's the same size, pretty much.
He's pretty much the same size. So even Leo Santa Cruz was a little bit taller than Gervonta, even though he was a lighter weight. Mario Barrios, taller fighter. Ryan Garcia, taller fighter. And that's where Gervonta would be able to sneak in that left, right? Whether it's an uppercut or a sneaky overhand left, he would always catch him on the reset.
What about the Gamboa fight? He went toe-to-toe with Gamboa. Gamboa has great boxing pedigree from Cuba.
Very awkward style and punches from different angles.
The only loss that Gamboa had at the time was against Crawford, but Crawford's one of the elites right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we're talking about fighters, those are the most notable ones that we can talk about. Leo Santa Cruz went toe-to-toe with him until he got set up and got knocked out.
It was his boxing that kept him in there. Combinations in boxing and speed.
He's not gonna be able to.
But he got caught with the left hand.
He's not gonna be able to do those things he did with Pitbull Cruz. What he did with Santa Cruz, Mario Barrio. He's not gonna be doing the stuff with Frank Martin. He's not.
It's not far fetched to think that Frank Martin can beat Tank tonight.
You know what? Well, it's because we never seen Tank with that level of opposition, dude. That's why.
I mean, he's fought really good names, but it's always been complete contrast or complete opposites in styles and resumes and so forth. These are two very similar fighters that know each other very well.
They've sparred before.
Same height, similar type of speed, punching power on both ends.
You know what plays different here is the experience. You're right. They have the same level of speed, power, experience. No, not the experience, but I think just Tank was more active. He has more experience than Frank Martin. Like I said, they were fighting about the sparring sessions. Again, I don't play too much into the sparring sessions because when you have big money on the line, when you have the right amount of boxing gloves, the right ounces, and when it's in the ring for real, I think a different beast is going to come out. So I really don't think
Tank's been cashing in a lot on the fact that once you reach a big stage with the lights, with the crowds, and you start seeing actors and music stars.
He feeds off of that.
So he's starting to get into the head of Frank Martin that's never experienced that type of level. He's been on undercards of big events.
And you're right.
But it hasn't been the packed arena yet. People are still walking in. There's movement. All the attention will be on you, the lights, the glamour, the this, and that's what Tank is playing the mind games on, where he's like, wait till you get in there and you get hit.
I don't know if you see the press conferences. Tank is being very, per se, disrespectful.
Yeah.
Just mocking him, not taking him serious.
It's mind games.
It's the mind games.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Frank's very serious.
He's pretty serious. He's pretty laid. I like about Tank is he's laid back, nonchalant. He's not a big... he doesn't talk a lot. He's just very
about
low.
Frank, you mean?
No,
Frank Martin?
no. I'm talking about Tank in general.
Gervonta.
So
Gervonta.
So what I'm trying to say is Gervonta's pretty laid back with outside Frank Martin. I'm talking about Gervonta.
And this time he's been animated.
Right now he's animated. Yeah. He's all over his face. He's clowning him. And you're right. He's getting into his head. But the reason why he's doing that, he normally doesn't do that.
Which means that even though it was sparring, there's some punching power there.
Yeah, there's some respect there from Tank.
Yes.
Tank is like, dude, this is a different level of opposition.
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. So, the interesting thing, we just had the lights go out or what?
Yes.
So, anyways, we're good. The interest here is, how do you see the fight playing out as far as whether it goes to decision, whether it goes to knockout?
It might go to decision, and the only reason I'm saying that is because Frank Martin is not one of your typical. Because look at the fighters that Tank has been fighting. He's been fighting a lot of fighters that are Latino, the rough, the go in there and the grind type of fighters. Frank Martin is not that fighter.
Not the slick, elusive type.
He's not playing checkers. He's playing chess now.
Yeah.
A very skilled boxer.
And Frank Martin's always been seen as a very smart boxer, a very slick fighter that possesses a good pedigree in boxing, that possesses good experience. And so when he's able to box with Tank, that's going to be the difference, because Tank is kind of a slugger himself. He's not a pure boxer either. He lunges a lot. He throws overhand punches, hooks. So he's not your traditional. Shakur's more of your traditional boxer. More of a higher pedigree style boxer. That would have been an interesting one between Frank and Shakur. This one is going to be almost like a let's see who catches who and who holds what.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those. It's going to be a chess match. They're both going to bring in their skills. They're both going to bring everything they have, arsenal-wise, to the table. And it's like I said, it's going to be a chess match. It's whoever gets that first hit and who's able to carry on the fight. It's going to be the winner, I think.
It's going to be interesting. And who are you picking on this one?
I'm picking Tank only.
You don't have to pick. You could
always just say Tank. Experience-wise.
You think Tank by stoppage or Tank by decision?
Decision.
Decision?
Yeah.
So Tank 29-0, 27 knockouts. Frank Martin 18-0 with 12 knockouts. So the last fight that he had was against Artem Haritunian, who's going to face Shakur Stevenson. That was back in July. Then Michel Rivera in December of 22. And then he had Jackson Martinez in July of 22. Activity level between those fights, July of 23 and now we're in June of 24, versus Tank, who went through all these jail problems and off personal problems, right?
Months.
That he had. He's been inactive since the Ryan Garcia fight. When was the Ryan Garcia fight?
Back in last year, I believe.
That should have been in April, right, of last year?
Yeah.
So he's got 3 or 4 months more of a layoff than what Frank Martin has.
Does.
Ring rust is a lot of people say it doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. It could potentially play a role here because Gervonta's been through a whirlwind of stuff, both outside or mostly outside of the ring. So between the Ryan Garcia fight and this one, Frank Martin's been in the gym. So it could play a role.
It could, but you think that's going to happen?
Probably not. I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate here. Trying to see what route of victory there would be for Frank Martin.
I don't think so. Gervonta Davis is not a stupid fighter.
Right.
I know that. He's a very smart, meticulous fighter. And he's been proving himself from day one that he is that type of fighter. Frank Martin goes in there and boxes, which is two different things.
It's interesting to see for Gervonta's style, which is a slugger and a power puncher, more so than a stylistically traditional boxer fighter, and just worrying about his quick feet and so forth. He likes to mix it. He likes to mix in there with the opposition. Frank Martin, the only route that I see him is outboxing Tank. I don't think
he doesn't possess the power to
I
knock
wouldn't
him out.
put it past us if Frank Martin actually drops Tank, but I don't think that he beats him in the end. He might pull the shocker and drop him because he has power. And there's a reason why Tank is acting the way he is. There's power there on behalf of Frank. He might drop Tank, and it might get the people off their seats, and it might get us off our seats and on the edge of our seats to see if this guy's actually going to pull the victory. I think what you're saying is spot on, that Gervonta always finds a way to win, and he's that smart that he'll be able to find a way to edge it out in the end.
There's a reason why Gervonta gets hit. There's a reason why he does what he does. Rolly Romero.
It's all calculated,
Yeah, if you look at the Rolly Romero fight, it was going toe-to-toe with Rolly until he got knocked out. Rolly fights Pitbull. Pitbull just wipes the whole floor with Rolly's ass. So, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, you're spot on.
Is he playing coy?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely smart baiting them, right?
Yeah.
And we know that. He baits opponents in
and
he gets the advantage.
And he has the ability to finish a fight in one shot.
Yeah.
Frank Martin never displayed that.
Yeah.
He never really displayed that.
Yeah, very interesting. I can't wait. I can't wait for these fights to get underway. I think right about the time that we're ending this episode, I think the first episode that we covered, which was Chris William-Smith against Rhea Pork, should be taking place at the time. We just hit about 3-4 hours right now of podcasting.
I just got out of the gym and I thought I was going to go home to a nice cooked meal and I'm over here drinking beers with you.
Yeah. Look at this. I mean, what a pleasure it was having you here. I can't wait for these fights, man. I mean, it's a jam-packed Saturday. And if you're listening to these episodes and you know we're getting the better end of a couple drinks in us and enjoying the fights will be underway. And then check us out on the recap episode. If I could get you back on the recap episode, it'll be amazing. If not, I'll be here behind the mic bringing that action to you. And thank you guys again for tuning in, for sharing the show, for continuing to spread the word. And we'll see what events I could get myself into in the coming months. And thank you for joining me. What a pleasure it was. How many hours did we just drop here?
Thank you for having me. It was an honor. It was a pleasure. It's... I think our last conversation, we started talking about boxing, and you tell me, this is what we need to do in my podcast. I'm like, it hit me. I'm like, I need to be here. I need to be here. And
yeah, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you took me up on the offer. What a great Saturday to kick this off. And I hope you guys enjoy it as well, because we just brought you, I don't know how many hours right now. I think we're reaching the 4-hour mark on the amount of content that we just put for you guys. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Surround yourselves with friends, with family, even with some people that you don't agree with, but try to keep it all friendly, obviously, when it comes to narrative as it relates to boxing, because it's a blast just being able to break these fights down and being able to try to figure out who's going to perform how, and how the fights and the results are gonna give out. So, and this is what we do. We love the sport. We have a passion for it, and look at what we're covering here. Hopefully you think this is a podcast gold as it relates to a boxing realm of podcasting. So thank you guys again. We'll check you guys out. I'll give you the last word, and Heck Cali checking out for the Toma Todito Boxing Show. Carry it out.
Heck Cali, thank you for having me, bro. It's an honor, and let's see what happens today. Thank you for having me, buddy.
Have a good one, guys. Take care.